Hi, my name is Priyanka Mehra, and I am the Curator of No Trespassing at Ishara Art Foundation. The concept of no trespassing revolves around streets, streets as a medium and as a subject. The initial idea was of it including a lot of street artists, also because of my background working with street artists. But then I also realized that this is not the only exhibition that I wanted to become, and I started kind of looking into who are the other artists who are working into streets as a medium or are inspired by streets. And that is how I think this exhibition formulated. So it's picking out the aesthetics of the streets and also looking into streets as a genre. You have like a lot of unruliness, you have a lot of disruption. You also have a similar rhythm and patterns to it because these also kind of formulate what streets are in essence and what are also our relationship with these streets. And it's very subjective, right? The streets that I grew up in India and the understanding of them are so much more different as compared to the people who grew up in this region and their relationship with the streets. So I think, which is why I wanted to kind of also tap into this concept of who are these artists working around the medium of streets or getting inspired by streets. The decision to include Middle Eastern artists was not intentional. It came out quite organically, and also having like my own friends and relationships with people in this region. So after having like a lot of conversations, I kind of realized that it's an interesting notion of what streets are to each one of us and how they kind of see the streets and also consume the streets. Which is why I just wanted to make that switch also being at Ishara. I think it was about time to also work with artists from this region, because if we are an institute majorly based in this region, it's also nice to have like that sort of an interaction with the people from this region and what they have their thoughts of, like from many other I don't know, categories, and just having those conversations. So this exhibition aims to break the institutional norms just by having these artists inside the exhibition. The spaces that we consider outside and the artworks that are only considered for the outdoors are getting on inside. Um, it's also an interesting perspective because there has been like this massive change, and we're not talking about the monumentality of works, but rather um, acknowledging the artists who are already having practices from the streets. And the interesting part about this is also that we haven't framed the works, because then we would be rather constraining ourselves back to the institutional and the societal norms. So it's a great part on Ishara to also give that freedom and let the artists loose and create and in fact transform the walls at Ishara and even the floor. I think a great example of one of the works that is breaking the institutional norm is Rami's work in itself, because it's extraction. It's not putting onto the gallery wall, and it also kind of talks about ownership in a way that you have extracted something from the whole space in itself. And then we always also perceive something when it comes inside an institutional space, especially for a gallery setting and an exhibition, then you're putting something onto a wall, right? But that is not happening here. In fact, we don't even have any existing artworks over here. Everything is very site specific. And I think in that sense, it's already breaking these boundaries. And then in a way that H11 could not make it. So that in itself speaks so much about how borders dictate what kind of artwork can come and what cannot. But the interesting part also over here is that the artist has been super supportive and the institute also has been super supportive in um, uh, cultivating that freedom. Khalid's work touches upon the development that is taking place so rapidly here. And it's interesting to note that he also thinks so much because of his walks, and during his walks that he came across these advertisements that we see out on the streets, and the keywords that are utilized when we talk about development. um, so in that sense, he's bringing about a very critical narrative, but putting it out there subtly. After having like many conversations with people and artists around, and once the concept had a skeleton, I was quite sure to work with Fats Patrol, because she's been um, a very integral part of street artists from this region. So that's one thing. And then Salma, I just had a chance encounter because I was doing various studio visits. And during that time, I kind of chanced upon Salma's work, and it was already so powerful. So it was, I think I just wanted her to kind of work in the space and see how we could work together. And she's come out with a brilliant artwork, immersing a massive room. It was also when I started reading about what are the artists doing in this region when we talk about streets or walking as a methodology. I came across Sarah and her work, and because her practice is rooted in Abu Dhabi, and she's also been an educator. So she comes from a very conceptual point of thinking when it comes to walking and how she perceives streets, and also the integration of lighting, so the invisible and the visible. The streets, they mean a lot to me. I mean, and they have like multiple facets. So I can't really pinpoint on just one, but um, for me, streets are life. Like they are lively, and you see a lot of life happening on the streets. You see plants, you see animals, you see people, um, and yeah, I mean, streets are just lively for me.